Hi guys, Beth here from Skill Outfitters. Where today is the first video in the 90 Days to Your GED video series. If you want your high school diploma, then you are in the right place. In today's video, we are going to discuss the one popular and widely accepted method of doing just that. It's called the GED test. All right, so if you are ready, then strap on, get outfitted, and let's go, because your future is ahead. The GED test is accepted as a high school equivalency in all 50 states and territories, including the American Samoas. It is just one of the many options that are available to you to get your high school diploma. There's things like the HiSET test, the task test, attending an adult diploma program, taking the GED test, and I believe that's it. All right, so those are pretty much most of your options in almost all of the different states. The GED test is very, very well known. It's very popular, mostly because it was the first type of test that you could take to get your GED, okay? So whenever they started coming up with different methods, then slowly but surely different states were accepting different tests. And so that is the reason why there's multiples. The GED test, though, is the most widely known, and it's going to be the one that all of your colleges and all of your employers are going to recognize, all right? So let's talk about what the GED test is and what you need to know about it. Now, what is the GED test? Well, the GED test is actually made up of 4 different tests. You have your reasoning through language arts, you have your mathematical reasoning, you have science and social studies, and to get a passing score on all 4 tests means that you have to have a 145 on each of the tests to be able to get then crowned with your GED diploma, all right? Passing just one test won't do it. You got to pass all 4 tests to be able to get your GED. All right, and in that case, you do it. It's time to pop the bubbly, because you will have your GED then at that point. All right, so some of the questions that people ask me all the time is things like, where can I take the test? Well, one thing about the GED that is a little unusual is the fact that the only place you can take it is official testing centers, all right? Pearson VUE Labs is the lab that has been tapped to take over handling all of the administration of the GED. So they have went around the nation and they have set up testing centers. Sometimes they're through some local schools. Sometimes they're just independent labs that have been set up in an administrative building someplace. But that's where you have to go to take the test. There is no way to take the test on the internet. In other words, you cannot go on your computer and find a place to take the test. If you see someplace online that claims that you can take your test there, then beware of it, because this is going to be a scam. There is no way to be able to do this, all right? So don't be sucked in. How much does it cost? All right. Well, it depends upon the state that you live in as to how much it's going to cost. But on the average, you're going to find that it's going to run somewhere around $30 per test. All right. So that's a total of $120 for the entire thing. There is help out there, though, to help you pay for that. All right. If you live in one of the states where it is very expensive to take the test, Ohio, New York, places like that can be very expensive. And so because of that, some of the states have set up assistance programs. Like here in Ohio, where I teach, the state pays for $20 of each of your tests. All right. And so that leaves you holding the bag for $10. So $40 for your high school diploma. Actually, it's not a bad deal. Now, also, you might find that if you go and you check with your employer, okay, sometimes employers are willing to help you out with it. In fact, there's this thing called GED Works. Okay, the GED Works program is programs where the GED testing centers have made arrangements with employers to actually do a lot of help. They send in teachers and that kind of thing. Of course, I guess if you're on the internet here looking for help, you're not looking to go someplace to get it, but you might find that they will help you out with the cost, okay? Sometimes local charities like United Way and Goodwill and maybe some local like ladies organizations, things like that, will also offer to help pay, especially if you're a specific sort of student. Let's say you're a mother and you've got young children at home. Maybe you're disabled. Maybe you have, like, I'm trying to think of what another possibility would be. Maybe you're unemployed, you got laid off from someplace. There are lots of different organizations that may help you pay for it, all right? So just look around. Contact me if you would like some help out on the website, skilloutfitters.com. I'm going to be posting a PDF that will have in it all of the different states, how much it costs to take it in that state, and then along with some different little helps to help you find some different ways to pay for it. All right, so how do you sign up to take this test? Well, there's one way. You go to GED.com and you have to sign up for an account. When you sign up for your account, you need to make sure that the information that's on your ID matches what you put into your GED.com account. The name has to match, the address has to match. So if you have an expired driver's license, or maybe you have moved and your driver's license isn't even from the state that you live in, or maybe you don't have a driver's license and you need to get a state ID then. All right, so make sure you have that ID. It has to be a picture ID, so make sure that you get that taken care of. All right, so when you get signed in on your GED.com account, all that stuff has to match. All right, you will then choose which test you want to take. Okay, you will choose what location you want to take that test at. You'll choose your day and your time. They have an awful lot of different options, so it's going to be really easy for you to find a good location, a good time of day, that kind of thing. It'll be easy. All right, so to pay though, if you don't have a voucher, well, you actually can do this. You can combine a voucher like you get from the state along with a secondary method of payment. But that secondary method of payment does have to be a credit card or a debit card. So before you get ready to sign up for your test, make sure you go and you get that taken care of. All right, so remember I mentioned there are 4 tests. First one we're going to talk about is the Reasoning Through Language Arts test. That is made up of 2 different parts. All right, the first part is a lot of reading comprehension. You're going to be reading articles, you're going to be answering questions about them. You will be picking out which argument is a better supported argument. You'll be looking through the articles, seeing whether or not you think the writer actually supported their premise, the thing they're trying to persuade you to. And then there's the second part to this. All right, second part to this is what they call an extended response. It's actually an essay where you got to write an essay, and it's about 45 minutes that they give you. But you know what? I don't want you to freak out, because one of my Skill Outfitter tips for you is you can pass this without taking the writing section in most of the states. All right, so what that means is they've had some real issues with this writing section. It is computer graded. All right, well, you know as well as I do that no matter how intelligent computers get, they cannot reach inside your brain and understand what the point is that you're trying to make. All right, and they are very restrictive in the type of words you can use and things like that. And so because of that, I personally have not seen many students actually get any points on the essay. And so because it was so hard to pass this test, they did change the requirements. It used to be 150 that you had to have on each test. Well, because people were having such trouble passing it back in 2014, they changed the grading scale, all right? And so now you only have to get a 145, which is crazy, but that's what they did. Instead of changing the test, they just changed the scoring, all right? So that's the language arts test. All right, so you're looking at a total of 155 minutes, all right, with a 10-minute break between the 2 parts. So it is a fairly long test. This is one test that I would suggest that you kind of wait and you take it first, and you take it by itself on a certain day, because that's a long time to sit taking a test. The next test is the mathematical reasoning. It also has 2 parts, all right? This is the one that I teach the most because I'm a math nut, math guru, math nerd, if you want to say. All right, there's 2 parts to this test. The first one is the mathematical computation part, all right? In this particular thing, there's no calculator, all right? They want to know whether or not you can actually do all of this computation, all right? There's only 5 questions, though. So with 5 questions, I really think you'll be able to pull that off, all right? Then part 2 is the part where you can use your calculator. So as you can see, yes, you can use a calculator. They also give you a formula sheet. All right, so you don't have to memorize all those crazy formulas. It is almost 2 hours long, 1 hour and 55 minutes. And there is one specific calculator that you must use. All right, don't get the one that has a little 2 eyes next to it. All right, because you will not be allowed to use that one. Most testing centers, you have to bring your own. It's only about $20. Go online, look for it. Sometimes they have them at Walmart. Sometimes they have them at Myers. Sometimes they have them at Staples. All right. So these are all places that you can look for if you don't want to go online and purchase it. So just make sure that you get the right calculator. All right. What do you have to know on that math test? Everybody always asks me that question. Well, it's pretty much basic math and algebra. All right. So you'll have to be able to do operations with whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. Operations like adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Have to understand and be able to use ratios, proportions, and percents. All right. You also need to know how to read graphs and charts, pie graphs, line graphs, stuff like that. You also will need to be able to compute different types of central tendencies, average, median, mode, and be able to compute probabilities. There will be some geometry on this. Mostly it's area, volume, perimeter problems, surface area problems, things like that. We'll talk about that and how to do that, okay? Solving algebraic equations. All right, we'll take you through this step by step, but do know you will need to be able to do this, okay? And then slope. Slope problems are huge on the GED, but just saying. So we're going to do a lot of that. All right, we have the science test number 3. It's about an hour and a half long. It's a reading test, all right? It's mostly you read some articles, you answer the questions, you read another article, you answer the questions. So mostly what you need is some basic science vocabulary. If you take a look at just about anything that's good, solid middle school math, like 7th, 8th grade math, or even a general math, science that you would be taking in like the 8th, 9th grade, then you'll be pretty good for passing this test, okay? If you're looking for a really high score, though, then we may need to do a little bit more in-depth study just to get that score up a little higher. All right, there's no breaks in this test, but guess what? There's no writing. That makes everybody so happy. And yes, you can use your calculator. Social studies test. It's an hour and 10 minutes long. All right, it's very similar to the science test in that you got lots of reading and then you answer questions. There's no dates that you have to memorize, so you don't have to go out and memorize things. Nope, you don't have to do that. You're not going to have to memorize. But you do need to be able to read charts and graphs and be able to look at those charts and those graphs and be able to interpret what the writer of that or the grapher, if that's a word, what they want you to know. All right, there's no breaks in this test. Once again, no writing, which is amazing. And yes, once again, you can use your calculator. I don't really think it's necessary for this test, but it is available to you. All right, total test. 425 minutes. That's a very, very, very long test. So that's the reason why that I suggest that here at Skill Outfitters, we prep our students for this, is to take them one after another on different days. Science and social studies tests, maybe you could get away with taking those both on the same day. But it's really hard to take all those tests because you're talking almost 8 hours of testing. That's a very long time, all right? So another big tip from us then would be to schedule these tests individually. Usually the order that we have people take their tests in. First one would be the language arts test, then the math test, then either the social studies or the science, all right? Actually, I just said that backwards. The language arts test first, then the social studies or the science test, and then lastly, your math test, all right? And the reason being is it takes a long time to study for math usually for most people. And so what I suggest is you start studying for the math at the same time that you start studying for the language arts. That way then by the time that you've taken those other 3 tests, you're probably going to be ready to take your math test, okay? All right. So we talked a little bit about how to get help paying for the test. All right, once again, visit my website, skilloutfitters.com, and you'll find some more information there. What is the testing center like? That's another big question people ask. Well, it's going to be very sterile. You're going to walk in, there'll be a lady or a gentleman there. They will welcome you to the center. They will ask you for your ID. They will take your picture. They will then take you into the testing center. Some testing centers are set up where you got computers all next to one another. Others have little cubicles that they're set up in. So sometimes you're really alone, sometimes you're not. It just depends on the center. The biggest thing that I would say is make sure you arrive early, all right? Because if you arrive late, you will not be able to take your test that day. You will have to reschedule. Make sure you wear layers, all right? Because some testing centers will be warm, other testing centers are going to be cold. So make sure that you wear layers so that you can either take them off if you need to, all right? Don't wear jackets that are the zip-up kind with pockets. They're not going to let you take that in, so just make sure that you're wearing, a few layers, maybe a sweatshirt, that sort of thing that you can peel off if you get warm. All right, so testing day. You're going to need that ID. Make sure you bring it along. Make sure it's the one that matches the name and the address that you put into GED.com. Like I said, you will have your picture taken that day, all right? You're going to enter into the lab, sit down where they assigned you to. You will be given, for the math test, you'll be given a whiteboard. All right, I believe you're given one for the language arts test also. That whiteboard is what you're going to use as scratch paper. All right. Different testing centers have different rules when it comes to this. Some testing centers say that you have to bring your whiteboard to them and get another one to replace it when you fill it up. Others will allow you to erase and continue to use it as scratch. The person that runs all this is called a proctor, all right? And their job is to kind of oversee the area, the testing center, all right? So be patient, but if you experience a problem while you're taking the test, don't hesitate and don't wait to ask for help, because that timer just keeps ticking. And if your computer is misbehaving or the internet's not paying attention and not running fast enough, then make sure that you get in and you get that taken care of, all right? So you want to ask them right off the bat. Now, how do your results get? Well, your results get to you through GED.com. You will receive an email that tells you your results are in, so watch your email, and that way you'll know your results are ready. Okay, so let's go over some tips for testing day. All right, I've already talked a little bit about this, but you need to make sure that you arrive early. There is no late entry into the testing center. Ask for help immediately if you have a problem, because that ticker is just going on, all right? Make sure you wear layers, because you just never know what the testing center is going to be like. Schedule it during the time of the day that you think best. All right, some of us are morning people. Some of us are afternoon people. Some of us get really sleepy in the afternoon. Some of us think better after the sun goes down. So you know yourself. Make sure you schedule this test then during a time when you're going to be your most alert and when you think the best, okay? Don't schedule it after a long day of work. Don't schedule it when you know you're going to be tired, all right? Just make sure that you schedule it for a time that works best for you. Eat normally. Don't do something crazy right before the test. Don't take more medicine just because you're going to be taking the test. If you're on medication for depression or for ADD or for anxiety, don't take extra medicine, but also don't not take your medicine. Make sure that you do take your medicine just like you would normally. All right. Same thing with eating. Don't eat right before the test if it's not your normal time to eat, mostly because you'll get sleepy during the test. All right. You are not allowed to take your phone into the testing center, so don't count on that. If you need to be available at all times because you have children or whatever, keep in mind during that 2 hours that you're taking the test, you will not be accessible. So make sure that you have somebody that you can trust to watch over your children or your other responsibilities. And then the day of the testing, you don't want that to be the very first time that you've driven to the testing center. So do a test run the day or two before that. Make sure that you know what the traffic is going to be like the day that you get ready to go take your test. So like if you drive the route at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you got there in a half an hour, but your test is scheduled for 5:30, no. traffic patterns are going to be a lot different at that time. So you don't want to drive it for a test at 2 o'clock. Make sure you drive it for that test at 5:30. Make sure you leave yourself lots of extra time. When I say arrive early, be there at least 15 minutes before they tell you to be there, which I believe they tell you to be there about 15 minutes before your actual test. So your goal is to be there 15 minutes even before that. Okay. Big question I get all the time is how are these tests scored? Well, they're all scored by a computer, okay? Most of the questions on the GED test are either multiple choice, they're what's called drag and drop, or there's a drop-down menu that you're choosing stuff from, or there are a few fill in the blanks. But all that can be scored by the computer, and so it is. Now, that also includes the essay. So just keep that in mind, that when you're writing things, that a computer is going to be using this. So don't copy big sections of text out of your source documents, because you will get dinged for that. All right, now the way they work this is you get points for every question you get right. Okay, some questions have more than 1 point assigned to them because there's more than one answer inside that question. So usually the way it works is like for the language arts, there's somewhere around 60 points that you can get. But the number of questions may vary, all right? It just depends. There's multiple versions of these tests. But your goal is to get a score of 145. A 145 is given on a scale of 100 to 200. And so what they do is once you get your raw points, then they have an algorithm that they use to plug it in then in between that 100 to 200. Your goal is to get a 145, all right? You have to get a 145 on each test to be able to pass and get your GED, all right? Now, of course, the next question is what happens if I don't get that 145? You do get the opportunity to take 2 more times, all right? You can take 2 more times. So that's a total of 3 opportunities before you have to wait for any length of time. You can take it one right after the other. Most states, they don't make you wait in between retakes. But at the end of the 3rd retake, if you still have not passed, all right, you've taken it 3 times total, you have to wait for 60 days before you can take another set of 3. And then if you still haven't passed, and you have to wait another 60 days before you can start another set of 3. You can do this all year long until you finally pass the test. But I will warn you that every, like you take it the first time, you pay, full price, even, or there's a voucher paying for it, you paying for it. Then it's only like $10, maybe $15 to take it each time after that for the first retake and the second retake. But then when you get ready to go after that 60 days and you take it again for the first time, you have to pay full price for that. And most states will not help you pay any more after that first test. So just keep that in mind, all right? So in your score report that you get from the GED testing service, they will tell you in there what areas that you need to work on to bring your score up, okay? So make sure you use that test or that score from your test. So what should be your study plan? All right, well, this is the plan that most of my students follow. All right, the first thing that I would say is you have an idea of how much work that you need. All right, you know if you've been reading a lot, you know if you're good at reading comprehension, you know whether or not your vocabulary is high. You know if I mention the word fractions and you have ice strike in your heart, you know that you're going to need lots of help. All right, if you fall in those categories, then you want to just go right into study. All right, but if you're like, you know what, it's not been that long since I was in school, and I remember how to do some of these things, why don't I go ahead and take what's called the practice test? It's called the GED Ready, and what it'll do is it'll give you an opportunity to try a half-length test, okay, and then the GED service will predict whether or not you're actually ready to take the test. And they're pretty good at their predictions, I have to say. They're pretty good. So if it comes back and it says likely to pass, then my suggestion is sign up immediately, take that test, get it out of the way. All right. If you get between a 100 to a 142, then you're going to need some work. All right. That means that your skills have either degraded or you haven't actually ever had those skills. Maybe you stopped, quit school pretty early. Then you're going to need some work, okay? But if you score between a 143 and let's say around a 147, then you probably just need some brush up. And this particular course that this video is part of will be a very good one for you, the 90 days to your GED, all right, because it'll allow you to go through and quickly brush up on your different topics, all right, and it's mostly, this particular course is for math, all right, it'll allow you to get brushed up, and in 90 days you'll have that test done, okay. Now 90 days, of course, is a leisurely pace for someone who scored that high on the GED Ready, all right. You can push it faster, that's just as quickly as I'll be able to get the videos out. All right, on skilloutfitters.com is another place that you can go for more help. This is where you're going to find the step-by-step study guide. All right, and I'll let you know right now, you're not alone through this. I am here to be your backup. All right, I will be your instructor through the entire process. Okay. If you sign up for the course on skilloutfitters.com, you will find that part of the course, part of what you pay for the course, is study hours, all right? And there will be multiple study hours through the week where you can come and you can get individualized help, all right? Most tutors charge somewhere around $45 to $50 an hour to help you get ready for your tests, all right? So this particular course that I have on my website is just $20 a month. All right, you will have access to all the videos, the practice problems. In my videos, I plan on going over, and I will go over every single problem, all right, from start to finish. There will be no assuming that you know how to get from one step to the next. I will show you exactly how to solve each of these problems. I will talk about common misconceptions. I will cover, all right, well, what if, you know, this mistake I see students do over and over and over again. I will show you where those mistakes are mostly located and how to solve them. Okay. Now, if you don't like the month-to-month payment, you can get a lifetime access to all my skilloutfitter.com courses for $149. It's a one-time payment. You and your entire family can use your account. Okay. It's everything you need and nothing you don't. All right, we talked about being able to afford the GED Ready. Oh, but never mind. Nope, this is GED Ready. The GED Ready does cost money. It's $6 per test. Sometimes they run specials, half price. If you can't afford that, or it's just something you don't want to spend money on, I will tell you that the book that we're using for this class, the Kaplan book, does have a test at the front that you can use that will give you a good idea. There are some online unofficial practice tests that you can take on websites like Ohio Means Jobs, which even if you don't live in Ohio, you can still get access to. And there are some other ones out there too. Once again, on my website, you can find a complete list, okay? They're not nearly as reliable as the GED Ready because they don't give you that predictive score, and they're also not written by the GED people. You know, that's the big one. But it's workable, all right? It gives us an idea. Now, the last question that we're going to talk about is the big question that, you know, I get from a lot of, well, shall I say it, older people. What if you're not comfortable on a computer? Well, I'm here for you for that. All right. If you go over to skilloutfitters.com, you will find that there will be a course out there called Finally Understand Your ... All right. Maybe it's your laptop, your phone, your tablet. Getting comfortable using these tools so that you can access all of the great tutorials and all of the different lessons and things that you can find online. Very important. It's also really important as you get comfortable with your computer because apparently if you're getting your GED, you have plans, all right? And those plans will include having to use the tools of business and education, which include computers, all right? So I want to thank you for spending time with me today. All right. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please look down below, find the subscribe button and subscribe. There's also a little bell icon there. Please click that so that you will get notifications every single time a new video comes out. And please leave some comments below. This way I can get to know you and we can find out what else you guys want to hear. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching my video today. I do appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you for video number 2.